Gravel Burn 2025 with Aaron, raw and uncensored. Aaron, how are you?
David, I'm good. Back in the UK, just settling into sort of European life, if you want to call it that, which is essentially a lack of light and pretty cold temperatures. Considering what I went through on Burn and what we had there, like the full season experience, came back to like 12, 13 degrees temperatures. And next week, we're looking like we're going to get a first bout of snow. So it's a bit of a shock to the system, but good to be settling back in.
Some would argue that Gravel Burn prepared you for the UK.
And was the rumor going around? Yes. It was quite an experience in terms of weather. Did not expect that, but I think I've come out of it a stronger man, put it that way.
I think that the easiest grouping of themes to run through, because we know now you and I could do this for hours on end. And whilst I'd watch it back a few times over, I'm not sure that's the preference for everyone. So I was thinking a couple main themes that we can try and stick to. Route, catering, and like accommodation, which I think are two different things. I'm super eager to hear about that bike. That was obviously a big theme. Nutrition, and then just like final thoughts. Happy those themes.
Sounds good.
Run through those. So route, anecdotal feedback from some people that have been gifted entries and others that paid is extremely polarizing. What are your views?
Yeah, I think it is polarizing. And before anyone, I think, should have made any comments that it should let the dust settle, so to speak. It's always going to be an emotional response after going through what happened over those 7 days. But I think for many riders, those thoughts will possibly be a little different now that we're into the second or third week post-race. It was difficult. Everyone knew it was going to be difficult, but I think for the Europeans coming into the race, they heard a gravel stage race. They were told or heard from other people that it was going to be smoothish roads, high speed, 35, 40K an hour average. They didn't really need to train much or prepare much in terms of their technical ability. But that was a massive shock to the system. And I think it was a shock to my system too, because my training comprised a lot of technical riding on mountain-like trails around the Surrey Hills. During summer, there's a lot of sand here, and I knew sand would come into play at some point. So I did a lot of sand training, did a lot of distance training. But one thing that I didn't think about at the time, and this obviously was a factor for many people that rode the race, particularly from Europe and maybe some South Africans too, was the duration of the descent and just the constant changing of that terrain on those descents. It would be a little choppy at the start, maybe a little bit of sand, you get a lot of corrugations, and then you need to scan ahead probably 200-300 meters in order to prepare yourself and allow yourself to adjust the bike underneath you. So for me, it was more the technical descent. And I know we chatted about it briefly when we did the podcast when I was in Cape Town, and you mentioned that it would probably be smoothish, but it's just, I think the weather in that region is hard to predict. So a descent that you rode 3 months prior could change within an hour in heavy rain.
True.
Hard to predict. It's unpredictable. And I think that's what made the race so special and what is going to make the race so special. The route we rode 2 weeks ago could be completely different next year with a little bit of grading. It could even be worse with a bit of rain. But at the end of the day, when you cross the finish line, there's so much relief that it's over, and then the sense of achievement of what you've endured and what you've earned. I found it really hard, probably waking up on stage 3 and just mentally preparing, knowing that I've still got another 4 days of that, of what I experienced 2 days before. And I think it was just the mix of weather. So we know that region is quite unpredictable when it comes to rain, cold, heat. did not expect sheets of rain on stage one, like unrelenting from the morning, from the day before actually. So I did like a little warm up ride up Samoa. Like I said, I wanted to look for my reference points, etc.
Yeah.
Bloody long climb. I didn't remember it being that long. It's a bloody long climb.
And it butts.
Yeah, it does. And it was just, it wasn't the rain itself. Because I think if you start a ride or a race in the dry and it starts raining, you kind of accept it. Mentally preparing for what's going to play out, and it's bucketing down in sheets of rain. It's like in the shower all day long. I think that was really hard.
And in terms of those, I mean, the route, the kind of the two camps are, because there is champagne gravel. There is gravel that is what I thought it was going to be a lot of. So my excitement for this was people who are going to come here that would perhaps not have come otherwise, that love gravel, will see the champagne gravel and just be like, this is the best gravel destination in the world. Because we do have that. There's no question. And it seems that epic legacy still lives strong within the organisers, because obviously, their background is that they are the founders of that event. No connection to today, but they have a hardcore, tough, gnarly race pedigree almost like built into them, and that seemed to be a link more in that direction from what I'm told. Which it'll be a good pivot into the bike. Not that I want to get off the route yet. Does make bike choice extremely critical, because you get gravel bikes and you get gravel bikes today. So you get full sus gravel bikes. You get what I would call a normal gravel bike without those things. And I think, it divided people a lot in terms of what they went there with and what they expected. And I'm kind of on the fence. I think I would have preferred the easier champagne gravel to have a greater audience that would feel they could do it. But by the same token, to your points, the sense of accomplishment when you get through that, looking back at it now, like you said, now that the dust is literally settled, that's a hell of an accolade. And that we know that's a recipe that worked. We've seen it with Epic. Like people come back, the harder it gets, almost like the more people want to go back and attempt it again. Any views on like those two contrasting things? Like what's your, now that you've had some time to think about it, what did your opinion?
Yeah, I mean,
it's keep the route the way it is. This is the right direction, or pivot to something easier.
Yeah, I've already given my feedback. Spoke to Neil Gardner after the race, and I said straight to him, "It's like keep the race as is. You don't dumb this down, because you're going to dilute what you've created here. These stories, these campfire stories, these war stories." Are going to pass on into Europe, into the States, into Australia, and people are going to crave that challenge, right? Something we should also address is champagne gravel is different things to different people. Champagne gravel is different on different continents. I've been privileged enough to ride gravel in the US, in Italy, in Spain, in the UK, which is very different, in South Africa. Champagne gravel is different to every region. So the champagne gravel we got at Gravel Burn was probably just a lack of corrugations and washboard for, a short period of time. Whether that was actual gravel or tar, I don't know. But it was just a matter of scanning ahead and finding your lines. We were snaking across those gravel roads like a Nokia 3310, trying to find the smoothest line. It was so hard because we'd be barreling along at 30 k's an hour, and then we'd hit a rough section for 5 to 10 kilometers where it was just like driving along on speed bumps and just grinding to a halt.
Yeah, and those moments they hit hard, emotionally and mentally. It's like you got to dig, you got to really dig to get through those, right?
Yeah, I don't think as many expletives have been spewed from my mouth before than some of those scenarios, because I was getting like severe headaches just because of the helmet vibrating against my head and my neck not being able to support my head. Just the fatigue and the compound fatigue. So going from stage 1 and then getting into stage 6, which was neutralized for the right reasons, your body's just not working really. I mean, a power meter is useless in stage 6 and 7 because at that point, body's consuming muscle, You're not making the power you were on stage one. Just absolutely ignore it. But I think the route should stay exactly the same. Perhaps there could be some variation on some of the stages where they can route around different parts. But I personally felt that stage 4, was it Blaavater to Blaavater, was harder than stage 6. Although stage 6 was neutralized, that just meant the time didn't count for GC. We still had to get through that. That stage, I mean, that morning or the night before, the wind was unreal. I thought my tank was going
crazy.
Yeah, so everyone was concerned that morning. The organization did really well to do what they could in the particular circumstances. I think it should have been neutralized from the start. There was some of the tent, some of the marquees were getting blown away where we were having breakfast. And we knew with those winds, a storm was coming. Like you could see it in lines down. So that day, just to give the listeners an idea, those that weren't privy to what went down, severe winds, probably looking 70, 100 kilometer per hour, constant with gusts. Okay. That settled. We got a bit of rain. Neutral start to putt style number 1, which was raced, obviously, in the age group categories. Pretty hard. Terrain leading out the campsite was still quite hard. Corrugations were just standard. They played on repeat for 7 days. So that was just standard. And it was just the severity of the corrugations changed. Yeah. The wind down the one descent was so severe that Adam Hansen, the former World Tour pro, was blown off his bike in front of me. I was full lean with my body weight into the wind to stay upright. And then I saw some of the pros riding up the descent, and they're like, on the wrong way, because Simon below was coming up. And he looked like something was really wrong, or he had seen a ghost or something. And we had found out that André Fischnecht had come up down that descent. Not sure exactly what happened. I think he got a bit of air. He got blown in, mistimed the landing, but he broke his collarbone. I think there might have been a bit of a head trauma. He's fine, but no one knew at the time. I think there was a collective decision by the professionals, went to the organizer and said, look, for the safety, not just of us, but of the back markers, let's neutralize the stage, get everyone finish, right? Yeah. So we got to that cut style. All the pro riders were there. There was still a whole lot of riders coming in. We got the announcement from Nick Lamond. He said, we're going to neutralize the stage, find some riding buddies, and just enjoy the ride to the finish line. But not enjoy because it was still bloody hard. The wind picked up again, crazy rain. We got involved in a hailstorm, like hailstorm the size of marbles. All the same day, dude. All the same day. Like I was in a group with like Carl Platt, Eric Lennon, Donovan Park, Ashley Oldfield, Ashley Momontasio. We had to take cover under these thorn trees for a while, just because it was the pain was so severe getting pelted by these stones. At the same time, 20 minutes earlier, we were going up this nasty climb and it was 35 degrees Celsius. Yeah. We're just like, you can't script this. And it just sounds, if you're trying to relay or retell the story, people are going to think you're talking nonsense because you just experienced a full range of weather. But I think it just made for such a memorable, special state. Got to a point where it's like, you can't, we just have to accept what's playing out here and enjoy it, really. Yeah. But it was just so much happened. If that stage was raced, and I can tell you now, David, if that stage was raced, we were in for a serious mix-up on the GC. I reckon the outcome of that race would have changed completely because that was super hard just to ride from start to finish.
But ultimately the right call that it wasn't. I mean, it sounds like that was a no-brainer, really. I love how it was the right call. And it was like, just enjoy the ride, buddy up. And then everyone just went and raced and murdered each other anyway. That is so South African.
I think for the organizers, David, the problem was getting any kind of transport or buses to that region where we were. I'm trying to think where it was. Was it?
That's the thing about this race is you can do whatever you want, but because you are in the landscape you're in the country that you're in, you have to keep going. There's no such thing as, okay, this was play, hop on the first world train and get out of here. It's no, you've got to go through it. And I love the mention you made earlier about the war stories. It's almost like the war stories at the campfire were honestly earned at this event. It's not like, great ride and, shredded that berm. It was like, I reckon, you tell me, people must have really felt a sense of unity and like they'd gone to and come from battle and war. That's what it's like hearing this from you. I haven't had this detailed conversation with you, obviously, up until now, if anyone's wondering, and I haven't heard the detailed feedback from anyone else, but it's got like proper war story FOMO here. Like,
we woke up on stage 2, stage 2 in Aventure. Okay, so we had just been rained on the whole day. Started getting very cold when we arrived in, so you had to get your hot shower, get sorted. Wake up the next morning. It's -2. Everything is frozen solid. Our shoes, people that try to dry their bib shorts outside the tent, solid pieces. I couldn't move the headset on my bike. My bike was frozen solid. I was walking around like with a dog blanket on, trying to stay warm. Someone said I looked like a Lesotho goat herder.
Yeah,
that's what I felt.
I want B-roll footage, Aaron. You better send it to me. I need to see the goat herder.
Yeah, I've got some photos of that. I'll show you the goat herder photo. And just a full spread of weather, which I think made the experience even more African and more South African, more sort of authentic Great Karoo, because that's what that reed is known for. And then racing at that altitude as well. We were at altitude from stage 2 to the end, really. That made for some tough riding too.
It's a great account of the course, and I think it's so important to think about the perspectives of the people that have done it. I can imagine a lot of people extremely overwhelmed and unimpressed with that route choice. But I think being the inaugural event, it's important that it establishes its identity and says, this is what I am and this is who I'm for. And it's very much done that. I loved your first, that is the one bit of feedback I got from you on route. It's route mustn't change. Bang on perfect as it is. I dig that. That's cool. It's a good moment, a good segue into the bikes. I think that is what I like, and I've heard a lot of. I saw people going in. It's the cool part about gravel, right? There's so many different setups. People are like, what is the best gravel bike? This truly is one discipline of racing where I don't think that's a real thing. I don't think you can say the best gravel bike is A, B, C, or D. I think the best gravel bike for a particular gravel race is a more particular question. And that is just so exciting to have such a diverse landscape of equipment options based on certain types of terrain is really cool. Now, you obviously went in there with a very, very light, extremely good looking, I would say quite racy gravel bike.
Very racy.
Extremely. In terms of, if you could go back and change anything, would you?
There are a few things I would change, and I made that choice with that bike based on information that was relayed to me by certain evenings I went to and individuals who had ridden part of the route. Me having an understanding of what you'd get on stage 1, Karoo to coast in reverse. I thought, what I elected was a good choice. I failed to grasp what would play out from stage 4 onwards. So stage 1 to 3, my bike was perfect. Granted, I'd probably make different choices in terms of tires. But if I could do it again, David, I think, and I've written a piece on this for Cycling Weekly already. We can possibly link to that. I think I would have been better off if I kept in with the same brand, a Cannondale Topstone with Lefty Oliver front, rear King and 50 to 52 millimeter tires with inserts. I didn't go into this race trying to find the lightest bike I could find. I tried to mimic the bike I was training on the road, which was my road bike, my Super 6, and then kind of off-roadify it, you know. And the best bike I found was the Super X for that. I did dabble in a couple of other brands and other bikes, which were just as racy, perhaps a little bit more tire clearance, and had a provision to put on a RockShox Rudy 30mm fork, right? This bike didn't, and I thought I could probably get away without using suspension. If I could redo everything, it would either be something on maybe a Cannondale Topstone, or I'd go on a bike that could accommodate a suspension fork, minimum 50mm tires. I know there were some individuals that raced on 40mm, 42, 45. I think it's just going to work.
I think.
Yeah.
But that is Lachlan Norton.
Yeah.
It's a different human.
Yeah, you're going to work harder, you know, all those miles, and you got to get your tire pressures just right. And if you don't have inserts, that's the penalty you pay. So did a lot of research, my own research going into the race. And I didn't personally like the feel of the inserts, like I told you.
Yeah.
I had none communication experience, and I just wasn't getting any information from the trail being relayed through the underpinnings of the bike.
Yeah.
For me, if I can't feel the bike communicating with me, there's no connection, and that's going to lead to understeering or oversteering and accidents on the trail, right?
You're talking about long descents that were extremely technical, of varying, changing conditions. I'm guessing that feedback is critical for you in that moment, right?
Yeah, yes. It's critical, but at the same time, I think I would have been a lot more relaxed knowing that I had the safety net of inserts. Okay, so I eventually put the inserts back in on stage 3 for stage 3, because on stage 4 for stage 4, because stage 3 I punctured on a descent. I was with the leading guys in my age group, felt really, really strong, going down one of the long descents, and I thought it was the guy next to me that had could use sealants and air leaking, and I was like, whoa, this guy's in trouble. And then I was like, this feels weird. This feels weird at the back. I was like, what the hell's going on? And I looked, and it was completely flat, and 10 centimeter sidewall cut. Yeah. So to nurse it, I think there was 1 or 2 kilometers to the next aid station, thankfully. And the mechanic there, and I knew personally from when I still lived in Cape Town. He worked at Night Racing, Jeremy, and he sorted me out with a new tire. Lost about 5 to 10 minutes. But yeah, he got me rolling quickly. And at that same aid station, Peter Stetner was there with a trashed rear wheel, completely cracked. So he punctured as well. And he rode about 10 kilometers on the rim. And the MacGyver job they were doing there, if I had access to my phone and I could make a video, it was absolutely amazing. They had put a tube in with a tire on the cracked rim, and they had taped the whole wheel. Didn't get into the finish line, but I mean, it was still down to the rim when he got to the finish line. But they managed to do MacGyver for him, and I think there were a lot. Yeah, exactly. And so going into stage 4, I obviously lost my rear wheel, my rear tire. So I took my front tire, the 47, I put that on the back, and put a 50mm specialized tracer on the front. And so I still had the Vittoria Torino dry, which is essentially a T30. I only found out when I got back to the UK, chatting to John Heisman at Vittoria, that the Vittoria Torino dry 47mm was replaced by the Vittoria Torino T30 45 or 50mm with reinforced sidewalls.
Yeah.
So the sidewall I had were okay. They just weren't
not reinforced, which for this kind of event is no brainer.
Yeah. But for me, having tested various tire widths, I was so super happy with the 47, with the versatility that 7mm shape gave me. Unfortunately, I think I made the wrong choice, and I own up to that. That's something.
Well, the information you had is the caveat, and I think that information you had is, again, anecdotal feedback from a few people. It's similar, and the conundrum people are having now, I mean, there's a certain brand that we obviously work with and resell. People are asking now, what do I buy? And it's like, if you're buying a bike to do, I mean, that event is an outlier. Gravel burn is gnarly. It is insanely tough. Like, I can't with a good conscience recommend someone rolls around on 50s as your gravel bike go-to, like, and make that a necessity, or even the suspension options. I'm like, that for me, and this is subjective, is not gravel. I think the majority of gravel is not, doesn't require that. But now people, particularly after this, like, so like, I need a minimum of 50, and I've got to have the Rudy 30 up front. I'm just like, no, and it's, this whole conversation is re-erupted, which we were talking about when you came on the podcast originally. And I just love it. It's great. It's great for content. It's great for speculating. It's great to, because where else is that happening? Guys are arguing 32 and 30 mile on road, or like, does the ISOFlow work? Is it real? What about like, it's a bit boring, isn't it?
And I think that's the beauty of the race. The beauty of the race is going into this incredible detail and thought into equipment.
Yeah.
Right? So I do understand what you were saying there. Having a suspension fork up front and 50 millimeter tires for 99% of the year on your gravel bike is overkill. You're overbiked, right?
Yeah.
I think for riders looking to enter next year and beyond, look at a bike that has provision for those things. So there are a lot of bikes that have provision for the gravel fork. Some bikes have flip chips, which can change the tire clearance. So they have a short setting and a long setting. Look at something like a Live Devote or Revolt or whatever. Those bikes can change the tire clearance from 45 to maximum of 52 by just flicking a flip chip.
Yeah.
So things like that you need to look at, future-proofing the bike for the events going forward. My bike did a really good job. It handled everything that was thrown its way. I mentioned in our previous podcast that I put in those shims under the handlebar tape, and this is what they look like. So if anyone's watching, these things here. So it's like a 3D printed shim, and there's a lot of, if you push that, there's a lot of give in that. And I think that's what saved my hands. It helped give that little bit of cushioning when the weight transfer went from the rear onto the front end, because there was a lot of that as well. You don't understand. I think a lot of riders fail to understand their positioning on the bike and what their positioning does to the handling. And the sooner you realize what's happening, distribution and weight balance, the better you're going to feel on the bike too. And that just comes from riding the bike and actually maybe taking someone aside and saying, look, if I pull the rear brake, what happens? If I pull the front brake, what happens? I think there's a propensity for the general population riding is that they just grab the brakes and they think the bike is going to stop. Yes, it's going to stop, but it's also going to affect where your weight is placed over the two axles.
Yeah.
And that can either hold you to go far through a corner, or you're going to hit the deck, high side and go over the bars and you don't know what happened. And that's weight distribution. That's something you understand. There's a lot of technical things. I would honestly suggest booking some kind of a skills clinic with your gravel bike, just to understand how the bike is working beneath you and what the pedal inputs, brake inputs are doing to the bike beneath you and you on top of that, because it's center of gravity. Your bike's moving under you moving on top of it. A lot of things can go wrong. And if you don't understand that, and a lot of people don't understand that, there's ways to avoid accidents. And I've got a really decent understanding of what happens underneath the bike. As a former motoring journalist, I know what happens, but there were guys flying past me on those descents. And they knew exactly what they were doing. It was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Having something like Thomas Frischknecht come past you at like 60 k's an hour, flicking his tires and his bike around, knowing intrinsically what was going on beneath him and focusing ahead, and I'm just hanging on for dear life. My body rattling from side to side, the bike relaying all that surface through into my body, and I'm just vibrating. I'm just on edge the whole way down. But it was absolutely amazing experience, and the bike got through everything for the most part. I do recommend riders think about having a complete bar stem arrangement. So not having a stem that fixes onto a bar. There were lots of ruts, and there were a couple of riders who had their bar rotate in the stem on the descent, and that can also...
That's interesting. So you're saying an integrated bar stem is a... Okay,
yes,
that is a very, very valuable insight. Because that's
super stiff,
Yeah. Because that'll rest or loose when it's so gnarly. You're saying there's corrugations pretty much throughout. You can tighten it and do whatever you want. There's a valuable top tip there.
Yeah, and just checking the torque ratings of your bolts. That's something I didn't see anyone doing from stage to stage. I was checking my bolts because you don't realize, rattling around for 80% of the course, those bolts are going to come loose. And if you do have an individual bar stem arrangement that is bolted together and you're not checking that, it can really land you in a really, really tough situation.
I wouldn't have thought of that. I must be honest. So overall, bike did an amazing job. I think considering once I saw how this thing was playing out and how gnarly the course was, I thought about you often with those 47s. We were so sure. I mean, watching our podcast back, I was like, sure, he's nailed this. He is on the perfect bike based on what we thought was going to happen. And when I saw what was unfolding, I was like, that's not going to age so well for either of us.
The titles. I don't suffer from saddle sores. I don't even use chamois cream.
I don't even confident on that.
Dude, I got back to the UK, and I wouldn't say I was examining my nether regions, but I was like, what the hell is this hard skin? Dude, I was peeling off shards of scabs.
Yeah, it's
from where from the friction and touch.
It tells it now.
Real life.
And okay, so that's the bike neatly wrapped up. Again, I think it did a hell of a job, all things considering. But valuable inputs. I hope anyone that is planning on doing this for next year gives that a good listen to, because that's some valuable advice there.
And a chain catcher. Without a doubt. There were so many drop chains, that was happening on the high speed corrugation sections. If you lose the groove there and you're in the wilderness and you got that Peru hairdryer freaking pumping, it's going to be a lonely day. So a couple of guys dropped chains, and, with the narrow wide configuration of some of those chain rings and the super stiff direct mount rear mechs, really battled to get them back on. It's not as easy to get that back on while you're riding, let alone stationary. So I would suggest a chain catcher that works for you. Try a couple of brands, see what happens. But you just want something to prevent it from jumping off chain ring. Yeah.
Again, very specific to the gnarly terrain. It's not necessarily required for your cruise around the Surrey Hills, or maybe it is, but this is extreme. This is not your everyday gravel race. Speaking of it not being an everyday gravel race, let's talk about the campfires. We saw incredible imagery. What was the softer side of the event like? What was the vibe? What was the engagement like? There were lots of famous people there. A lot of people talk about being starstruck and just mind blown who they're sitting at dinner with. To an international audience, you obviously have a broad reach in the European market. And to a South African audience, what would your feedback be in that regard?
Yeah, I think the organizers have that nailed. The facilities were top notch, world class. The sort of ablution facilities, the showers, the tented marquees for dinner, the food, the level of the hospitality of the people from each region was really, really nice. I think some of them could have been treated better by the participants. I saw some horrible scenes Just treating the staff terribly. I wanted to call a few people out on that because these people are doing a job in South Africa. For many people, it's a valuable thing. It's something they're proud of. All they're doing is deliver the service and do the best they can. Don't call them out because you've had a bad day. And if they say supper is at 5:30, it's at 5:30. Don't go start helping yourself to food and then belittling them. A lot of that, which I didn't appreciate.
That's awesome.
The people doing the service, wonderful. Organization, wonderful. Everyone was available for chats. Being starstruck, I think for a lot of these international stars coming over and doing the event and not having their agents around, help them let their guard down, so they were relaxed. So, I mean, in my little tented section, which was called Kudu, I think Chad Hager and Simon Pelot was in my little camp village, and they were very friendly and chatty. Managed to do something on Simon's bike, and I was very excited about it. And then I was asked by my editor to get hold of Tom Pidcock, which I thought was going to be really, really difficult. Didn't know that he was staying in the tents as well. And after he won stage 5, I'm walking to my tent with my wife Jenna, and she's like, "How do you know who won today? Was it Matt?" And I was like, "No, it's like Tom Pidcock absolutely macheted the climb and won." And he was like standing right in front of me by his tent, and he was looking at me. And I was like, "Oh, Tom, you had a great race. By the way, my name's Aaron. I'm from Cycling Wiki. I've been asked to interview. Would you be cool with that?" He's like, "Yeah, find me after 5 p.m. I'll answer your questions." Cool. And then, yeah, I saw him in the sort of marquee where they were doing the prize giving. And I said, do you want to chat down? He's like, let's do it. And that's got an exclusive interview with Tom Pidcock. That I think that magazine is on sale now, actually, in the UK. So that was pretty cool. And then the riders were very, very friendly and approachable. They were signing so many autographs. They were doing so many selfies. And I think it was just really good for the sport. So not only were riders getting access to potentially going to be one of the greatest and most prized gravel stage races in the world to enter and complete, being able to rub shoulders with those individuals and chat to them, sleep and live in the same quarters as them, just shows that they're normal people, just like you and me. And they're not having that the stringent demands of those world tour setups, and then being able to just unwind and relax, and just communicate with people was very, very special to see. And I think that is one of the areas where the race sets itself head and shoulders above the rest. The professionals are not sort of cordoned off in a special section. You don't have access to them. If they're with you, you could be lucky enough to have 3 or 4 in your little tented campsite.
I love that. I think of all the things that have come out from Gravel Burn, that is head and shoulders the coolest part about it. There's this humanizing effect that it has on both sides. I haven't heard anyone specifically mention that people were, because it's possible that people can be overbearing. I mean, Tom's an extreme example because he's just so well known and so famous. That can also be a loss. If people are constantly selfie. How was your stage? When are you going to win a stage? Like, I know that would be irritating for any human. But it doesn't sound like anyone was like overly badgered. It was like just good intentioned. Hey, can I get a picture? Like, obviously you're an important person, and it just sounds overwhelmingly positive. And the feedback and the little loops that I get then is that shows very positively on the South Africans to these pros, that they understand personal space. They're not in your face, super demanding, entitled, and it just seemed unique in the way that everyone was able to coexist. And I think if that maintains, particularly that whole, there's no special treatment, we're all on the same page, man, that's just so spectacular. And it brings a prestige and exclusivity to that event that I don't think you can put a number on. That I think both sides appreciate for those different reasons, which is just so sick.
How was the coolest thing?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
I want to
know one of the coolest things was
go to that afterwards.
I'll tell you that afterwards. So the best thing I saw was, I just finished the interview with Tom Pidcock, and I'm making my way to my tent, and see these group of people running around on the field. Looked like they were playing cricket.
What is going on here?
Lachlan Morton, Alison Jackson, a couple of others, and they're playing cricket. They're playing cricket on the field, dude. It's just you wouldn't get that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so cool to see.
Of the events is super important for that very reason, because you're not going to get these guys any other time of year.
I think there's two sides to that, David. You would love these guys, these international pros, World Tour pros, to come into this fully fit, so that the South Africans and the African riders can go head to head with them in that regard.
Okay.
Okay. But it's going to be hard for them to fit it into their racing calendar. So I think the positioning of the race is I mean, our South African riders are going to be tired too. It's the end of the season. But very few of them have the opportunity to race against Tom Pidcock, Cameron Worth, Aaron Brownlee, Lachlan Morton, Simon Below, etc. Although Simon was racing for the win, someone like Tom Pidcock, he openly told me he was here to chill.
Yeah.
He was there to chill. He said he didn't even look at the route profile ahead of stage 5 that he won. He said we was in a good position on the final climb, and he just went a little deep. He said it hurt him because he's not in shape. He managed to get that. So I think it's tricky. I think they've struck a balance in where to place it in the calendar, because that region in the height of summer is going to hurt. It's going to bring other challenges. So they've struck a balance, I think, in terms of where it falls in the calendar for World Tour pros, being able and giving them access to do it during their off season as they build up into the season, into January and their training camps, gets them into a little bit of form. And then at the same time, it gives riders and young South African professionals the opportunity to say that they did race against Tom Pidcock,
Sure.
And they can ask him questions, how that some kind of mentoring can go on. It's very, very valuable for those riders.
Yeah, I mean, we had Sipho from Better Kaya on, and that went live like 2-3 weeks ago. And he talks about how a single moment where they by chance were on a ride, interacted with some pros, and it changed the life of that organization, of him and hundreds of South Africans forever, as a result of one moment where they just got to interact with someone who, could create an opportunity off the back of it. Not to say that the event must be this, birthplace of millions of opportunities, but it's just being there. You never know. So that's, man, I really love that aspect of the race. And if there's one thing that people need to tip their hats to the organizers for, it's achieving that very balance. I don't see anything else happening on the continent, barring Worlds in Rwanda, that creates that dynamic. Having said that, the other big theme is nutrition and food, which is something I think must be as important in this race as the bike itself, maybe even more so.
It's very tricky.
Some hot takes from there. And I mean, my food question is just very simply, knowing how remote it was, did they manage to give people that, infamous South African dining experience?
It was top class food. So good. South Africa's meat is just top notch, dude. You do not get that quality. You don't get that quality anywhere else in the world. I think Argentina can rival South Africa in terms of like beef. But the UK food UK vegetables are pretty good because you get so many different variations of potatoes. In terms of meat, it isn't there. So the protein, what we had on offer was an immaculate spread of food from morning to night, just constant snacks, biltong, droëwors, drinks. It was just, we were just treated like kings.
So the flag was blown high from that regard. Good.
It was, yeah. And I think the organizers nailed that. I was never a fan of Cape Epic food. I once got sick at a Cape Epic from food and chicken and stuff. So I'm very, very picky about what I eat. But there it was restaurant quality. I'm not joking. It was
good.
Got Gordon Ramsay style food. It's really good. nice burgers. There were kudu burgers. There was everything. Good, really, really good. Can't fault them. Can't fault it. On the bike nutrition, that's always been something tricky for me. I think for bigger riders and smaller riders, it's harder to sort of nail down. I've always struggled with the bonk. I mentioned it or alluded to it briefly in the last podcast when I said when we used to do the Pure Savage DCs at 160, I'd like hit the wall. That was because I didn't have an understanding of fueling. When you're starting out, you don't really know. I mean, if you look at your car, when your car runs out of fuel, it stops. You need to feed the engine.
Yeah.
And riders need to understand that we are the engine to our machine. And if you're not fueling that engine, you can't expect it to perform at a high level.
Yeah.
And there's a difference in quality of nutrition too. And it takes a lot of experimentation over many years to dial in. And over the years, I've used quite a few different brands. When I was in South Africa, I was using Powerbar a lot. And then last year, I was introduced to Amax Nutrition, which were actually sponsoring the event, but they also sponsor the team I ride for in the UK, which is Q36.5 London race team. So that was like a perfect fit for me. And I was using the isotonic drink, which is a really nice mix. I think there's 40 grams in that. And then the turbo gels, turbo gels, 40 grams in that. So I was trying to hit about 100 to 110 per hour, which I think works for me. I'm not the biggest lad around. About 60. I went into the race at about 60 kilograms. I won't tell you what I weighed afterwards. It was less. I don't know what was going on, but I did get sick on the plane on the way back. There was a family behind me blowing all sorts of stuff into my face. And it wasn't pretty. But yeah, I was doing, so I find the moment you get off the bike, you need to start refueling. And while you're on the bike, you aren't just fueling for that particular moment in time. You're also fueling for the next day. So you're trying to ensure you are topped up and you don't go into a deficit at any point. So it might be seen as a bit of excess, but I was doing about 9 to 10 gels per stage. That ensured like a constant stream of energy for me. At a 1.5 liter hydration pack on the back, which was just my isotonic, which I was sipping whenever I got a chance. And then there was just plain water in my bottle, either plain water or water with like a hydration salt tablet.
Yeah.
There was no point throughout the race where I had any dips in energy at all. So the only issues I experienced in the race was the terrain was just exceptionally hard on my body. And I think my lack of technical polish, because I've been doing a lot of, as you know, time trialing and road racing, did show up. And I knew, I mean, I didn't have any expectations going into the race, but I knew in terms of my fitness and my shape and my power, I was in a really, really good place. Stage 1 went exceptionally well for me. It's like 4th in category. I made it over Samola with the strong guys. There were like only 8 of us. And then on one of the descents, I decked it and lost the group. Just was riding on snot. But the power was really, really good. Finished 5th in my age category, 45th overall, considering there were 53 pro men. Pretty happy with that. But I was just showing up.
You're modest.
I mean, I would have liked to have finished higher because that's just my nature. But I was on my legs a lot. I was, taking pro bikes for photographs and walking around a lot, looking for interviews and any other opportunity. So I had added stress, but all things considered, I'm pretty chuffed with the outcome. If I ever want to do that again or be even more competitive, I probably need to work a lot on sort of my technical descending and then looking at ways to, just scan for better lines in those corrugations, because I think everyone was suffering, whether you were 90 kilograms or 50 kilograms. Those corrugations affected everyone. I just think if you're a bigger rider and you're rolling higher absolute watts, you're going to be in a lower cadence. You can grind those out almost. Whereas I was hoping for the best, just have to mash those pedals and hope that it kind of calms down or settles down at some point. But I got my fueling spot on. I can't fault that. It's been an area that
one low in that amount of time with that, because I found with running at least, but also on like technical stuff, 361 is one of the tougher routes I'd ridden. And it was difficult to fuel in that intensity. It's similar to running. Like you can't, road riding is easy. It's just, Joel, you just have to remember to do it. But I found taking on fuel, digesting it with such intensity, it's, I don't know, it's, and then as a result, you go into and then you bonk.
It's a lot of practice, David. So there's a lot of I spent a lot of time training on certain nutrition and certain products with range. And I found this might not work for other people either, but caffeine doesn't work well with me in high intensity and during exercise. So I eradicated caffeine completely from the equation. And then I looked at gels that were just really like watery, easy to get down. The last thing you want, taking a really watery gel, and you're in a situation in the race and you need to cram it down quickly, you're still going to get it into like an oxygen deficit, if I can call it that, where you're like gasping for air, and you don't want something like chewy, a lot of viscosity, and you got to chew it, force this thing down. So you got to find something that balances flavor with texture. And I think that MX range is pretty good with that. Power bar is good with that too. Because you don't want, when you're on the rivet and you possibly experience it, over time you feel when you're about to go into an energy dip. And at those points, certain smells and flavors want to make you throw up. And that's, I think, when you need to have a product that has flavor, but it's not overpowering. There's another product using before called Carbs, which is from the US. It's a really nice brand. It's just such a faint taste and just like superb energy. But you can't get that
whole train on what you race on. It's such a cliche because you say it so often. And a lot of the time, if we're being frank, nutrition isn't cheap. I'm an avid fan of the 226s stuff, 226s, Amex, whatever. I think there's a very high level of performance from the lot of them. No one can describe them as cheap by any stretch of the imagination. So you kind of do this thing where it's like, I'll keep my premium nutrition for race day, and I'll use perhaps cheaper stuff that's got much higher sugar content, or maybe not, maybe it's good old Game and Oros. And then come race day, you have the inevitable outcome. And as you know, DC is next weekend, and that's the only race I take seriously in the year. And I'd committed to on the last 3 months on our Savage Tuesday rides. And any of the long ones in between, I would fuel with, the full range, the caffeine, like literally race effort fueling. The mix in the bottles, the gels, I can't tell you the difference. I'm pretty sure I'm the strongest I've ever been. You saw I achieved my all-time life goal of going sub 10 cappies.
Pretty jealous.
And
pretty jealous.
I felt like I could have gone back and done it again. And other than sticking to Reese McDonald's program, he is, the silver bullet in many respects. Every year he manages to get me locked in. But the major difference from this year to last was sticking to that nutrition at least 3 days of the week, which does come at a cost. You can't ignore that. You can't pretend like it's doable for everyone. And it is, you say you've been on Annex for as long as you have, and you went through 8 gels in a day. That's proper training. That's making sure that you've used something, you've gotten used to it, it works for you, the flavors. And that's what people, people hear it a million times, but they won't do it. And it's an investment. Like if you're going to be set, and if you're going to go and do something like gravel burn, if you're taking your DC seriously or your cycle tour, whatever it is, you got to look at 3 months and just be like, listen, at least a day a week, I'm going to fuel as if it's race day. And I think that cumulative gain and how much harder it'll allow you to train as well, how quickly you recover, all those things. It's unbelievable how much that benefit rolls up. I can't attribute.
But there's one.
It's anything else.
I don't know if you found this too, but when it comes to athletes and riders chatting about training, they're more. They'll chat more about what works for them and what could benefit you. But when it comes to nutrition, no one talks about it because they know that it's like the secret. Nutrition is the secret. You can do the training.
100%.
You only have to feel, you can't perform. And no one wants to share
Well, the training you
what
can
works when it comes.
I can see what you're doing unless you go and hide everything, which no one does. No one's that nerdy in our circle. So we'll all see. Thursdays are intervals. Tuesday savage. Weekends a long ride. I mean, you can pretty easily work back what someone's doing, but you don't know what, to your point, that you have no idea what they're putting in those bottles. You don't know how they're fueling. There's a lot of people in our own, savage fraternity that have gone buying their own fructose and all the other things that make it up, and have dabbled with all sorts of crazy things in terms of grams per, bottle. And I mean, crazy stories are coming out from it. It's incredible. So there is definitely something to be said for that.
It's the quality of the field too. It's the quality of the field too.
Yeah, but there's a thing.
There's a pure savage legend called William Robinson. Then if you've heard of Will, absolute machine, dude. You must chat to Brendan about Will.
William.
So we're starting William Robinson. Yeah, he's a really good runner too. But I think he was a professional cyclist in his youth, like youth for UCT or whatever. So he's really, really strong. And we're about to head off for the start of DC, and I'm getting all my nutrition sorted out. And Will's using clear sort of water bottles. It looks like there's just water in his bottles. And I'm like, Will, what are you using? Like Cadence? What do you got there? He's like, no, that's Cape Town Tap. I'm like, Cape Town Tap? You're racing with water. And he's like, yes. And I was like, what are you eating? He's like, seeds. Eating seeds and water for DC, dude. And he would finish. He'd be the first across the line, and he would.
That's what he.
I'm not joking, dude.
What?
That's what he. Yeah, I don't know what he ate at the stops, but it was tap water and like seeds. And this guy was just an engine, dude. This guy would just ride on the front and tow everyone around for 200 k's. Super strong and hairy legs.
Yeah, some are more gifted than others. I can't. Seeds and water. I've drank our water. There's nothing in it that's going to help you perform it.
Absolutely.
At least not me.
Yeah. So for you, while finding the quality of fuel, it's going to work for you, experimenting with that, and then testing how that works with your stomach and your gut, because it can upset some people's stomachs. You need to train. You need to train on the fuel to see what works for you. It's going to be costly at first, but once you find what works for you and your body adjusts to it and adapts to it and can use it freely, that's the best.
No, that is going to be a point that you don't agree with. Your body pushes back, and that's almost like part of it. It's like cramping and training. Like it's going to happen. It's push through it. It was something that I'd experienced. I'd had blips, and just feel a bit less next week, build up and get to that point, which I never understood, because you hear people talking about it, building your tolerance. You got to go and do it, and you got to go and do it with the fuel you're racing on. Probably my biggest takeout from this whole year is just that one point, which is crazy because people have been saying this for ages.
Yeah.
Are you coming back to race it next year?
When I crossed the finish line, I was just, I'm going to say emotional. I was just a grumpy man. I don't think I was happy to be around. It was just a hard week on the bike. And I said to my wife, I was like, never again. And then we were chatting a few days ago, and then I was like, have you thought about next year? She's like, no, she's thought about it. She's like, and you? I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about it too. So we'll have to see. If I don't come back for that, I'd like to do DC again. Probably.
Well, consider
with just what I know.
Yourself part of the team. We've offline. I'll share some stuff with you. We've made quite a splash this year. We have a kit launch video. I've got right next door to me today is our kit unveiling. Matching helmets, new kits that's all laid out across this big table. This is our new Savage brand. There's been a rebrand. We've got social teams. That's ridiculous. So your timing couldn't be better. But if they called you now and said, we've got a ticket for you next year, you got to confirm today, what's your answer? It's yes or no today?
I'd have to say yes. I'd have to say yes. It sucks you in, dude. It sucks you in.
Love it.
They've created some so special there. I mean, I don't think gravel burn and camp epic should not be spoken in the same sentence.
That's actually your point.
Two races. Gravel burn, Kevin has created something truly unique, truly African, something really special. Okay, something that's really hard, that's going to test you to your very limits, not just physically, mentally too. It was really hard waking up every day and knowing what was coming, right? But, as the stages unfold, you find your people, every single day. You become friends, you meet people. There are people in Dubai and the UK now I'm chatting to on Instagram, trying to meet up with them. Some made new friends, love Africa. Met a chap who competed with one arm. I think his name was Jaco van Gas. He's a former South African that joined the UK military. He was on tour somewhere, something happened, lost his arm, and he's gone on to Paralympics. He's got world records for GB. Dude, he did that race with one arm. And I said to him, mate, how did you do those descents? How did you handle those descents? Dude, and he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I'm so happy I made contact with him. And the guy who was sharing a tent opposite him was Ruben van Niekerk, the guy with one leg. He's done like 5 Olympics. You have these guys sharing. There are no excuses.
That's the
no excuses. Yeah, it's really, really special race. And I think it's going to, the blueprint they've got and the foundations they've laid, and to have had such a successful edition 1, it just proves what's going to happen. I'm so excited to see what happens for edition 2 and 3, and whether or not they do make any changes to the route. I hope they don't. Told them, please don't. Perhaps minor tweaks within the route. And then just encouraging riders who are feeling that it's a bit too much for them to perhaps do some training camps and familiarize themselves with what's going to come. That's what you can need to prepare for if you're outside Africa coming in. African gravel is on a different level, a whole new level. And African champagne gravel is technical gravel anywhere else in the world. That's what they need to understand too. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with corrugations and washboard, technical descents. It's part of the experience. And you want to finish the race knowing that you got through this challenge. These mimic life. It's ups and downs, getting through hardships, earning your way to the top, sailing down, it's really, really special. I'm super privileged to have been part of that first edition.
Well, I'm glad.
I think you need to wait next year.
I really, really hope we can get there, either to do it, or just to be able to set our podcast setup there and run like a show if we can. I thought that would. I thought that would be so sick if you could set that up like a Vox Pops thing, no pressure. Maybe you can get some commitments from a few guys, but just like get people in. That would be really cool. But we'll begin the groveling process soon. Let the dust settle. But one way or another, I will be there next year. I can't miss another whole year of this FOMO. But I'm really glad that you were there and that you've been so willing to share your experience of the event with us while you were there and now afterwards. And to our earlier point in the first podcast we did, I hope we can spread more of this message. I mean, this is one event. It's a world-class event. There's nothing else like it in the world. There likely never will be. But it's one. And there's so many other great reasons for people to come and enjoy this beautiful sport in our country. And I hope off the back of this and more, we can up that passion statement and bring that to fruition. So well done, first and foremost. Your achievement is nothing short of ridiculous, quite frankly. And thanks for taking the time to share your experience with us. Look forward to seeing the next one. Top 50 minimum. And a good activation for DC a few weeks later. Just need to get that work from home thing dialed with whoever the big boss is there.
We'll get that sorted. I'll start pulling strings now.
Lekker.
Thanks for having me again, David. And it's always good to chat to you and just relay the message that South Africans have what it takes to conquer the world. We didn't need to keep at it and just continue that belief.
Aaron, you're a legend. Thanks, Boykie. We'll chat soon.
Cheers.